Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, where we take up important articles of the day from the newspaper and discuss them in detail as per the demands of civil services exams. Articles covered today are displayed on your screen and their notes in PDF and Word format are provided in the description box down below. Without further ado, let us begin. Starting off with the first article of the day. It appeared in page 2 and 6 of the Hindu respectively. The article reports that on Monday, the Election Commission of India has recognized Aam Aadmi Party as a national party. It also has revoked the status of national parties with respect to All India Trinamool Congress, Nationalist Congress Party, and Communist Party of India respectively. Further, it has also granted and revoked the status of few other parties as state parties. Now UPSC in GS Mains Paper 2 has mentioned salient features of Representation of People's Act. This makes developments regarding Election Commission of India important from mains point of view. This is apparent from last year's question, which asks us to discuss the procedures related to disputes arising out of election for members of parliament or state legislature under the Representation of People Act. Further, for UPSC prelims, Election Commission and its powers regarding recognition of political parties are important. The news article highlights certain keywords such as national party, state party. It also highlights the benefits of such recognition. To know what is national party and a state party and the benefits regarding such recognition, we will first go into detail about the procedures that the Election Commission follows to recognize a party as a state or a national party. So let's explore that. Now the superintendence, direction and control of all elections to the parliament and the state legislature is vested under the Election Commission of India by the supreme law of land, that is the Constitution. So exercising powers conferred to Election Commission by Article 324, Section 29A of Representation of People Act 1951, as well as Conduct of Election Rules 1961, Election Commission has passed the following order called Election Symbols, Reservation and Allotment Order of 1968. This order has been amended from time to time and was last amended in the year 2016. This order provides for specification, reservation, choice, and allotment of symbols at elections for parliament and state legislatures. And also, it provides for recognition of political parties. So, political parties are of two types. The first is recognized, and the second one is unrecognized. The recognized political parties can be further classified into national and state parties, which are subjected to fulfillment of conditions prescribed by the Commission in this Election Symbols and Reservation Allotment Order. The conditions which the parties need to satisfy in order to be classified as a national or state parties are mentioned in this 2019 document. Now, what are the respective conditions that needs to be satisfied in order to be classified as a national and state parties? Let us discuss that. Now, conditions for securing recognition as a national party or a state party. First, let us discuss a party. If it were to be recognized as a national party, it needs to fulfill certain conditions. The first condition is that in elections to either Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly of a state, if a political party secures 6% or more of valid votes polled from 4 or more states, in addition, if the political party wins at least 4 seats in the Lok Sabha from any of these states. The second condition with respect to Lok Sabha elections. If a political party wins at least 2% or more seats in Lok Sabha, that is 11 seats, and if these candidates are elected from 3 or more states, can be classified as a national party. Further, if a party is recognized as a state party in at least 4 or more states, subject to fulfillment of any of these 3 conditions, a political party is classified as a national party. Now moving on to the classification for state parties. A party is recognized as a state party if it fulfills either of these 5 conditions. First is if a political party secures 6% of the valid votes polled in a state in the general election to the Legislative Assembly of a state, and in addition, it wins at least 2 seats in the assembly of the state concerned. The second condition is that if a political party secures 6% of the votes polled in a general election to the Lok Sabha, in addition to winning 1 or more seats in the Lok Sabha, can be classified as a state party. The third condition is that if a political party wins at least 3% of the seats or 3 seats, whichever of these are more, in an election to Legislative Assembly of a state, then this party is also classified as a state party. Further, if a party is able to win 1 of every 25 seats in the Lok Sabha in a general election, can be classified as a state party. The fifth condition, if a political party secure 8% of the total valid votes polled in a state at a general election to the Lok Sabha or to the Legislative Assembly, can be classified as a state party. Now, there are further conditions for continued recognition as a national or state party. Both these national and state parties have to fulfill all these conditions for all subsequent Lok Sabha or state elections in order to be recognized as such. In case they underperform, they lose their status. Now that we have established the conditions required for national party and state party, let us look at the benefits that these parties get post recognition. First, if a party is recognized as a national party, it is entitled for exclusive allotment of its election symbol for the candidates throughout the country, whereas the state party is entitled for exclusive allotment of its reserved symbol to its candidates only in the state in which it is recognized as a state party. Further, both national and state parties require only one proposer for filling the nomination. Both national and state parties are entitled to 2 sets of electoral rolls at the time of revision of rolls, while their candidates are entitled to get 1 copy of electoral rolls free of cost during the general election. Political parties are entitled to nominate star campaigners during general elections. A recognized national or state party can have a maximum of 40 star campaigners, whereas an unrecognized party can only have maximum of 20 star campaigners. The travel expenses of these star campaigners are not to be accounted in the election expense accounts of candidates for a political party. Further, both state and national parties are entitled to secure broadcast or telecast facilities over All India Radio or Doordarshan during the period of general elections. Now, as we have discussed the conditions required for state and national party recognition, we can understand the news in a better way. The Election Commission granted the recognition of national party to Aam Aadmi Party after reviewing the poll results of parties in elections of 2014 as well as 2019, in addition to election results of 21 state assemblies since the year 2014. After reviewing the poll performance of Aam Aadmi Party in general election to the state of Gujarat, where Aam Aadmi Party secured 12.9% of the total vote polled. This has made Aam Aadmi Party fulfill the criteria of being classified as a state party in Gujarat. In addition, Aam Aadmi Party is also a state party in states of Delhi, Goa and Punjab. This addition of Aam Aadmi Party and deletion of NCP, Trinamool Congress and Communist Party of India from the national party list has revised the total number of national parties to 6. This includes the Bharatiya Janata Party, the Indian National Congress, the Bahujan Samaj Party, Communist Party of India Marxist, Nationalist People Party, that is NPP, and last, the Aam Aadmi Party. Now moving on to the second article of the day, which appeared in the Hindus, page 7. The article talks about that the 17th Lok Sabha, which is entering in its final year, has functioned only 230 days so far. Out of all Lok Sabhas that have completed a full 5-year term, 16th Lok Sabha had the lowest number of sitting days, that is 331 days in total. With just more than 1 year remaining and with an average of 58 sittings every year, 17th Lok Sabha is unlikely to sit for more than 331 days. This would mean that it will be the shortest full-term Lok Sabha since the year 1952. Now, the declining productivity of the Indian Parliament has been a cause for concern in recent years, and this article highlights just that. The importance of this article can be gauged by the fact that UPSC in GS Paper 2 has a section that deals with Parliament and state legislatures with respect to its structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges, and issues arising out of these. UPSC in Mains 2021 asked a question related to parliamentary standing committees and asked us to evaluate the working of such committees with suitable examples. Whereas in the year 2017, in UPSC prelims, a question appeared that asked us to state an advantage of parliamentary form of government. It means that the executive remains responsible to the legislature. And in this discussion, we will focus on importance of why it is necessary for parliament to function productively. Second, how can this productivity will be measured? We will further discuss the factors that are contributing to decline of parliament. In the end, we will discuss the way forward that would suggest improvement in functioning of the parliament. Now let us discuss why is the productivity of the parliament important. The Parliament of India is the supreme legislative body in the country. It is responsible for enacting laws and overseeing the functioning of the government. The roles of the parliament include: first, law-making function. The primary function of the parliament is to make laws. Bills are thus introduced in the floor of the house. They are debated and discussed. After that only, they are passed as an act of parliament. Second function is the scrutiny of the government. Parliament has the power to hold the government accountable by asking questions, seeking clarifications, and conducting debates on the government policies and action. The third function is its control over the budget. Parliament has the power to approve or reject the government's budget proposal. Thus, it is able to scrutinize the government spending. Fourth, the Parliament has a power to seek oversight of the executive. It can investigate, examine the functioning of the executive branch of the government along with its various agencies. Fifth, the Parliament has an electoral function. The Parliament has the power to decide on the disqualification and qualification of its members. It conducts election to the office of President, Vice President, as well as Speaker, and it also has the ability to determine the electoral boundaries through delimitation. The sixth functioning of the Parliament is to amend the Constitution, and this functioning is known as the constitutional function. It can also proclaim emergency as well as impeach the office holders of President, Vice President, as well as members of the judiciary. Overall, the roles of Parliament in India are essential for maintaining the democratic system of the country, and it ensures that the government remains accountable to its people. Now, how do we know that the productivity of the Parliament is declining? There are few possible indicators that can suggest that the Parliament is in decline. Here are the few examples. First, let's refer to the numbers of bill passed by the Parliament. According to our data, the numbers of the bill passed by the Lok Sabha has declined in recent years. In 16th Lok Sabha, a total of only 205 bills were passed. This is less when you compare it with the 15th Lok Sabha where 248 bills were passed. Now referring to the percentage of bills referred to the committees. As you can see from this diagram, the numbers of bill referred to the committee has seen a continuous decline, which has reached about 11% in the 17th Lok Sabha
down from upwards of 60% in 15th Lok Sabha. As far as private member bill are concerned, private member bills are introduced by the MPs who are not part of the government. They are often seen as a way for backbenchers to contribute to the legislative process. However, only two private member bills were introduced in the 16th Lok Sabha. This is less as against 14 bills introduced in previous Lok Sabhas. The fourth factor that highlights the decline of the productivity is the questioner. One important aspect of parliamentary productivity is the ability of MPs to ask questions to the government. However, this question hour has been disrupted in recent years, with MPs often protesting and preventing the House from functioning. According to an analysis, in 16th Lok Sabha, only 29% of the scheduled time was disrupted, whereas as against current 17th Lok Sabha, as much as 48% of the time has been disrupted. Now, the fifth factor is the number of sitting days. In the start, we highlighted that the 17th Lok Sabha till date has only seen 230 sitting days. This is almost 100 days less than the 16th Lok Sabha. This can be highlighted from this graph. The number of sittings were very high in the year 1950s. This has continuously reduced over the decades and has fallen way behind in the millennium of 2000s. Now, let us discuss the cause behind this decline. There are several reasons behind the declining productivity of the parliament. The first important reason is the frequent disruption that the parliament faces due to increasing polarization and confrontational politics. MPs often engage in protests, sloganeering, and walkouts, which prevent the smooth functioning of the House. This has resulted in loss of valuable time and resources, thus hindering the legislative process. The second factor is the lack of deliberation, which is due to inadequate preparation by the parliamentarians. The government often rushes to pass the bill without thorough discussion, which leads to inadequate scrutiny and oversight. This has resulted into poorly drafted legislation which causes delays, controversies, and ultimately reducing the productivity. Moreover, there is an absence of robust committee system in India that has also contributed to the decline in productivity. Committees play a crucial role in scrutinizing the bills. They conduct in-depth investigation, research, and engage consultations with different stakeholders. This helps in drafting an effective legislation. However, the committee system being weak, this has resulted into complete bypass of the committee system, thus leading to inadequate scrutiny of bills. Furthermore, the fourth factor, the Indian Parliament lacks diversity, thus leads to significant underrepresentation of marginalized groups such as women and religious minorities. This has resulted in exclusion of diverse voices and perspectives, leading to passing of legislation that do not reflect the needs and aspirations of all sections of society. Thus, addressing these issues is crucial to ensure that the effective governance and strength of democratic process in India. In the end, let us discuss the factors that can play a role to increase the productivity of the parliament. There are many ways. First, there is a need for a greater focus on constructive and consensus based politics, where members of different parties work towards a common goal. This would reduce disruptions in the House and would allow the Parliament to function more effectively. Second, there is the need for better preparation and scrutiny of bills before they are introduced in the Parliament. This can be achieved by establishing a robust committee systems that engages in in-depth research and consultation. Such a system would ensure that the bills are well drafted, they are scrutinized thoroughly, and also that they are adequately debated in the Parliament, which would lead to effective legislation. The third is that Indian Parliament needs to focus on increasing diversity and representation, particularly of marginalized groups such as women, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and religious minorities. This would ensure that the voices of all sections of society are heard and the legislation as a result would reflect the needs and aspirations of these sections. Moreover, the Parliament should leverage technology to improve its productivity, such as using electronic voting systems, enabling remote attendance for its members, and enhancing digital communication channels. This would enable the Parliament to function more efficiently. It would reduce disruption, as a result, would save valuable time and resources. Finally, there should be a focus on capacity building and training of the parliamentarians, particularly in areas of legislative drafting, public speaking, and committee work. This would enable MPs to play a more effective role that would contribute to better legislative outcomes and increase productivity. Thus, to conclude, increasing parliamentary productivity in India requires a multi-pronged approach. By adopting this multi-pronged approach, India can strengthen its democratic institutions and ensure effective governance for all its citizens. Now, moving on to the last article of the day, which appeared in the Hindu's page 12. The article reports that since 2019, India has been under the influence of La Nina and therefore is getting substantial amount of rainfall. However, this 4-year run of plenty rainfall is likely to end this year, as IMD has forecasted a 4% shortfall in this season. Though still categorized as normal, 96% of the long period average is the lowest of what agency categorizes as a normal rainfall. Most recently, in April 2017, the IMD forecast was 96% and India saw a shortfall of 2.6% that year. The key factors that are playing spoilsport in this year's development, primarily of which is El Nino, a cyclical phenomena of warming of Central Pacific that in 6 out of 10 years has been linked to diminished rainfall in the country. Now, salient features of World Physical Geography is a part of GS Paper 1 syllabus in mains exam. As you can see from this PYQ of the year 2015, which asks us about the behavior of Indian monsoon. Thus, this topic is important from exam's point of view. As far as prelims is concerned, in the year 2017, a reference to Indian Ocean Dipole was asked and it expected the candidate to address the impact of IOD on Indian monsoon. Now in this discussion, we will see the predictions about Indian monsoon. Also, to understand the phenomena of monsoon, we will take an overview of Southwest Indian monsoon. Moving forward, we will discuss the atmospheric circulations that affect Indian monsoon. And finally, after developing the concepts, we will read about what the article describes and how the Indian monsoon is expected to be normal this year. Now, prediction of Indian monsoon is done by the Indian Meteorological Department or the IMD. IMD was established in the year 1875 and is headquartered in the city of New Delhi. It falls under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. It is the principal agency which is responsible for meteorological observations, weather forecasting, and seismology. IMD is also one of the 6 regional specialized meteorological centers of World Meteorological Organization. IMD employs different models for monsoon prediction. Until about the year 2010, it only employed a statistical model to forecast the Indian monsoon. These models essentially involved identifying climate parameters such as sea surface temperature gradient between North Atlantic and North Pacific, volume of warm water in the equatorial Pacific, and Eurasian snow cover. However, these models proved wrong and IMD missed the mark of forecasting major rain droughts and rain deficits, particularly in the year 2002, 2004 and 2006. However, around 2015, IMD started testing a new dynamic model called Ensemble Prediction System. This model simulates the weather at a chosen set of locations on a given day. It measures the land and ocean temperatures, moisture, wind speed at various heights and allows powerful computers to calculate how these weather variable changes over a period of days, weeks, and months by solving physical equations. These ensemble prediction systems provided a probabilistic weather forecast of up to 10 days, rather than long-range forecasts that only give broad tenuous picture of a likely performance of a monsoon. These shorter-term forecasts are far more reliable and helps make farmers decisions about sowing crops. Now let us discuss about Indian monsoon. The onset of monsoon occurs in the month of June. Towards the end of 19th century, it is believed that the differential heating of land and sea during the months of summer is the mechanism which sets the monsoon winds to drift towards our subcontinent. During April and May, when the sun shines vertically over the Tropic of Cancer, the large landmass in the north of Indian Ocean gets intensely heated. This causes the formation of intense low pressure in the northwestern part of the subcontinent. Since the pressure in the Indian Ocean in the south of the landmass is high and water gets heated slowly, the low pressure cells attracts the southeast trades towards the equator. These conditions help in northward shift of ITCZ. The southwest monsoon thus may be seen as a continuation of southeast trades which are deflected towards the Indian subcontinent after crossing the equator between 40 degrees east and 60 degrees east of longitude. Now in previous slides, we have seen the developments regarding the prediction model that the IMD has taken to predict the Indian monsoon. Despite these improvements, prediction can often prove to be wrong. These are due to the unpredictability of atmospheric circulation that affect monsoon. So, let us discuss what are the atmospheric circulation that affect Indian monsoon. The first of this circulation is El Nino Southern Oscillation or ENSO. The ENSO cycle refers to the fluctuation in temperatures between the ocean and the atmosphere in the east central equatorial Pacific, approximately between the international dateline and 120 degrees west. Along with the impact on sea surface temperatures, the ENSO also affects rainfall, temperature, and wind patterns around the world. There are two types of ENSOs. First is La Nina and second is El Nino. The comparison between La Nina and El Nino can be seen with respect to a normal year. In a normal year, the easterly winds along the equator push warm water westwards. Warm water at the surface of ocean blows from South America to Indonesia. As the warm water reaches west, nutrient-rich cold water from the deep rises up to the surface reaches the coast of South America. This phenomena is called as upwelling. The La Nina is sometimes referred to as cold phase of ENSO. It is characterized by abnormal cooling of sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific. Here, the upwelling gets enhanced and the trade winds are stronger than the normal. As far as Indian monsoon is concerned, it is seen that La Nina brings better than normal monsoon in India. However, frequency of this occurrence is very less. Moving forward to El Nino, which is also known as a warm phase of ENSO. It is characterized by abnormal warming in eastern Pacific. Due to El Nino, the upwelling is reduced, whereas the trade winds are weaker than the normal. However, winds may also blow the other way, that is from west to east. As a result, El Nino weakens the Indian monsoon. An occurrence of this phenomena is more frequent when you compare it with La Nina. The second atmospheric circulation that affects the Indian monsoon is the Madden-Julian Oscillation. The Madden-Julian Oscillation is a global band of low pressure that moves periodically from west to east in direction, and it determines the initiation and intensity of low pressure areas and also oversees the monsoon onsets under its footprint. It is a disturbance of clouds, rainfall, winds, and pressure that transverses along the planet in tropics and returns to its initial starting point in 30 to 60 days on an average. The MJO consists of two phases. The first is enhanced convective phase. Here, The winds at the surface converge and air is pushed through the atmosphere. At the top of the atmosphere, the winds reverse, that is, they diverge. Such rising air motion in the atmosphere tend to increase the condensation and rainfall. In the suppressed convective phase, the winds converge at the top of the atmosphere, forcing the air to sink and later diverge at the surface. As the air sinks from high altitude, it warms and dries, thus suppressing the rainfall. When MJO is over the Indian Ocean during the monsoon season, it generally brings good rainfall, thus having a positive impact on Indian monsoon. While on the other hand, if MJO stays longer over the Pacific Ocean, it brings bad news to the Indian monsoon, thus negatively impacting it. Now, the third atmospheric circulation that affects Indian monsoon is the Indian Ocean dipole. It is also important from the scope of today's discussion. The Indian Ocean dipole or IOD is referred to as Indian Nino, and it is a condition when sea surface temperatures of the western region of the Indian Ocean alternatively becomes abnormally colder and then abnormally hotter than the eastern Indian Ocean region. IOD can neutralize or worsen the impact of El Nino or La Nina depending upon the phase it is in. There are two types of IOD phases. A positive IOD means higher than usual temperatures in the western Indian Ocean, whereas in negative IOD, it means abnormally colder temperatures in the western Indian Ocean. A positive IOD phase brings more rain to India than a neutral or negative phase. Now let us look at the other important factors that affect Indian monsoon. The first of which are jet streams. These are strong winds blowing west to east about 5 to 7 miles above the surface of the earth. Jet streams can cause change in wind and pressure in the atmosphere, pushing the air mass around and affects the world's weather. It is believed that there is a direct connection between the movement of subtropical jet and streams of Indian monsoon. The shift in the position of ITCZ is also related to the phenomena of withdrawal of westerly jet stream from its position over the northern Indian plain south of Himalayas. The easterly jet stream sets along the altitude of 15 degrees north only after the western jet stream has withdrawn itself from the region. This easterly jet stream is held responsible for the burst of Indian monsoon. Now, this easterly jet stream steers the tropical depressions over the Indian subcontinent. The tracks of these depressions visiting India are the areas of highest rainfall. The frequencies of these depressions, the direction, and intensity go a long way in determining the rainfall pattern during the southwest monsoon period. Now, coming back to the article of the day. As we can see, the IMD has predicted a 4% shortfall in the normal rainfall. This has resulted the forecast of being at the lowest end of the normal rainfall. There are key factors that are believed to affect these predictions. The first of which is El Nino. The El Nino, that is the warming of Central Pacific and is responsible for 6 out of 10 years of diminished rainfall in the country. From 1951 to 2022, there has been 15 El Nino years. In 2015, the last strong El Nino year, the monsoon rainfall deficit fell by 14%, whereas in 2018, which was a weaker El Nino year, saw a dip of 7.4%. Experts say that while El Nino conditions are imminent, there are factors that may blunt its impact. First is that El Nino is only likely to begin in the second half of the monsoon, that is in the months of August and September. The weather models also indicate the development of positive phase of Indian Ocean dipole. This has a potential to reduce the impact of El Nino on Indian monsoon. Another factor that could blunt the El Nino is the reduced snow cover over Eurasia, as in this February and March, we have seen a below normal snow cover in Eurasia which is favorable for Indian monsoon. Thus, despite that IMD has started to place a greater emphasis on dynamic monsoon forecast techniques, the atmospheric circulation that affect monsoon adds to the unpredictability of Indian monsoon.